who than the rest that stand by him is higher by the head. The bravest man I ever saw, and most majestical. His only presence makes me think him king, amongst them all. The fairest of her sex replied, most reverend father-in-law, most loved, most feared, would some ill death had seized me when I saw the first mean why I wronged you thus, that I had never lost the sight of these my ancient friends, of him that loved me most, of my sole daughter, brothers both, with all those kindly mates, of one soil, one age born with me. Of one soil, one age born with me, though under different fates. But these boons envious stars deny. The memories of these, in sorrow pines those beauties now that these stars deny. The memory of these, in sorrow pines those beauties now that then did so much please, nor satisfy they your demand. To which I thus reply, that's Agamemnon, Atreus' son, the great in Empori, a king whom double royalty doth crown, being great and good, and one that was my brother-in-law, when I contained my blood, and was more worthy, if at all I might be said to be, my being so lost, might be said to be, my being lost so soon in all that honored me. The good old king admired and said, O Atreus' blessed son, born unto joyful destinies that hast the empire won, of such a world of Grecian youths as I discover here. I once marched into Phrygia that many vines doth bear, where many Phrygians I beheld, well skilled in use of horse, that two of these men, in use of horse, that of the two men, in use of horse, that of the two men, like two gods, were the commanded force, Otreus and great Mygdonus. Otreus, Mygdonus, were the commanded force, Otreus and great Mygdonus, who on Sangarius sands set down their tents, with whom myself for my assistant bands was numbered as a man in chief. The cause of war was then the Amazon dames, that in their facts affected to be men. In all there was a mighty power, which never yet did rise, to equal these Achaean youths that have the sable eyes. Then, seeing Ulysses next, he said, Love daughter, what is he? That lower than great Atreus' son seems by the head to me, yet in his shoulders and big breast presents a broader show. His armor lies upon the earth, he up and down doth go, to see his soldiers keep their ranks, and ready have their arms, if in truce they should be tried by any false alarms. To see his soldiers keep their ranks, and ready have their arms, if in this truce they should be tried by any false alarms. Much like a well-grown bellwether or feltered ram he shows, that walks before a wealthy flock of fair white-fleeced ewes. High Jove and Leda's fairest seed to Priam thus replies, This is the old Laertes' son, Ulysses, called the Wise, who through unfruitful Ithaca was made his nursing seat, yet knows he every sort of sleight, and is in counsels great. The wise Antenor answered her, When the Trojan councils met, and these together stood, by height of his broad shoulders had Atrides in councils great. The wise Antenor answered her, "'Tis true, renowned dame, for some times past wise Ithacus to Troy a legate came, with Menelaus. For some times past wise Ithacus to Troy a legate came, with Menelaus for your cause, to whom I gave receipt as guests, and welcome to my house with all the love I might. I learned the wisdoms of their souls and humours of their blood. For when the Trojan council met, and these together stood, by height of his broad shoulders had Atrides eminence, yet set Ulysses did exceed, and bred more reverence. And when their counsels and their words they wove in one, the speech of Atreus' son was passing loud, small, fast, and yet did not reach too much, being naturally born laconical, nor would his humour lie for anything, or was like the other, old. But when the prudent Ithacus did to his counsels rise, he stood a little still, and fixed upon the earth his eyes, his sceptre moving neither way, but held it formally, like one that vainly doth affect. Of wrathful quality and frantic, rashly judging him, you would have said he was. Of wrathful quality and frantic, rashly judging him, you would have said he was. But when out of his ample breast he gave his great voice pass, and words that flew about our ears like drifts of winter snow, none thenceforth might contend with him, though not admired for show. The third man aged Priam marked was Ajax Telamon, of whom he asked, "What lord is that, so large of limb and bone, so raised in height?" "Lord is that, so large of limb and bone, so raised in height, that to his breast I see there reacheth none. So raised in height, that to his breast I see there reacheth none." To him the goddess of her sex, the large-veiled Helen said, That lord is Ajax Telamon, a bulwark in their aid. On the other side stands Idomen in Crete of most command, and round about his royal side his Cretan captains stand. Oft hath the warlike Spartan king given hospitable due. Oft hath the warlike Spartan king given hospitable due to him within our Lacine court. Lacini. Given hospitable due to him within our Lacini court and all his retinue. And now the other archive dukes I generally discern, all which I know, and all their names could make thee quickly learn. 2 princes of the people yet I nowhere can behold, Castor, the skilful knight on horse, and Pollux uncontrolled, for all stand fights and force of hand. Both at a birth and bred, my natural brothers, either here they have not followed from lovely Sparta, or arrived within the sea-borne fleet, in fear of infamy from me, in broad field shame to meet. They have not followed from lovely Sparta, or arrived within the sea-borne my natural brothers. Either here they have not followed from lovely Sparta, or arrived within the sea-borne fleet, in fear of infamy from me, in broad field shame to meet. Shame to meet. Not so, for holy Tellus' womb enclosed those worthy men, in Sparta, their beloved soil. The voiceful heralds then, the firm agreement of the gods through all the city rang. 2 lambs and spirit-refreshing wine, the fruit of earth, they bring, within a goatskin bottle closed. Idaeus also brought a massy glittering bowl and cups that all of gold were wrought, which, bearing to the king, they cried, Son of Laomedon, rise, for the well-rowed peers of Troy and brass-armed Greeks in one send to thee to descend the field, and brass-armed Greeks in one send to thee to descend the field, that they firm vows may make, for Paris and the Spartan king must fight for Helen's sake, with long-armed and the Spartan king must fight for Helen's sake, with long-armed lances. And the man that proves victorious, the woman and the wealth she brought, shall follow to his house, the rest knit friendship and firm leagues. We safe in Troy shall dwell, in Argos and Achaia they that do shall dwell, in Argos and Achaia they shall dwell, in Argos and Achaia they, in Argos and Achaia they that do in dames excel. He said, and Priam's aged joints See, that's interesting because it doesn't actually say that that's Idaeus speaking at the beginning of the sentence. It says that they cried, all, these various heralds. But then at the end it says he said, and I'm going to assume that means Idaeus. So let's make a note of that. We'll make that Idaeus' voice then. I was just doing that as a general kind of crowd herald voice. Chapman does that a lot, where he will kind of like change who's saying a thing, or make it so somebody doesn't say anything and it's just like a scene description instead. Let's call that 15 probably. Idaeus. Okay. In dames excel. He said, and Priam's aged do in dames excel. He said, and Priam's aged joints with chilled fear did take. Priam's aged joints with chilled fear did shake. Yet instantly he bade his men his chariot ready make, which soon they did, and he ascends. He takes the reins and guide and tenor. He takes the reins and guide and tenor calls. And ascends. He takes the reins and guide and tenor calls, who instantly mounts to his royal side. And through the sea and ports to field the swift-foot horse they drive. And when at them of Troy and Greece the aged lords arrive from horse, on Troy's well-feeding soil, twixt both the hosts they go. When straight uprose the king of men, uprose Ulysses too. The heralds in their richest coats repeat, as was the guise, the true vows of the gods termed theirs. The true vows of the gods termed theirs, since made before their eyes. The gods termed theirs, since made before their eyes. Then in a cup of gold they mix the wine that each side brings, and next pour water on the hands of both the kings of kings. And next pour water on the hands of both the kings of kings. And next pour water on the hands of both the kings of kings. Which done, Atrides drew his knife, that evermore he put within the large sheath of his sword, with which away he cut the wool from both the fronts. Away he cut the wool from both fronts of the lambs, which, as a rite in use of execration to their heads that break the plighted truce, the heralds of both hosts did give the peers of both, and then, with hands and voice, advanced to heaven. And then, with hands and voice, advanced to heaven, thus prayed the King of Men. I actually want to get another clip of Agamemnon if I can find it. Because we have an angry Agamemnon, a neutral Agamemnon, but I want to get a, we had like an making an announcement Agamemnon, which I thought was a pretty good voice. And I could probably figure, just come up with it again, but it's better to have it for consistency. There we go. Found it. Okay. Let's put this in as Agamemnon announcement. Argives, for shame, contain. Youths of Achaia, shoot no more. The fair-helmed Hector shows as he desires. Okay. Advance to heaven, thus prayed the King of Men. O Jove, that Ida dost protect, and hast the titles won, most glorious, most invincible, and thou... O Jove, that Ida dost protect, and hath the titles... O Jove, that Ida dost protect, and hast the titles won, most glorious, most invincible. And thou, all-seeing sun, all-hearing, all-recomforting, floods, earths, and powers beneath, that all the perjuries of men chastise even after death, be witnesses, and see performed the hearty vows we make. If Alexander shall the life of Menelaus take, he shall from henceforth Helena with all her wealth retain, and we will to our household gods hoist sail and home again. If by my honored brother's hand be Alexander slain, the Trojans then shall his forced queen with all her wealth restore, and pay convenient fine to us and ours forevermore. Wealth restore, and pay convenient fine to us and ours forevermore. If Priam and his sons deny to pay this, thus agreed, when Alexander shall be slain, if Priam and his sons deny to pay this, thus agreed, when Alexander shall be slain, if Priam and his sons deny to pay this, thus agreed, when Alexander shall be slain, for that perfidious deed, and for the fine, when Alexander shall be slain, for that perfidious deed, and for the fine, shall be slain, for that perfidious deed, and for the fine, will I fight here, till dearly they repay, by death and ruin, the amends that falsehood keeps away. This said, the throats of both the lambs cut with his royal knife. He laid them panting on the earth, till, quite deprived of life, the steel had robbed them of their strength. Then golden cups they crowned, with wine out of a cistern drawn. Deprived of life, the steel had robbed them of their strength. I want to make a note for the, I'm planning to do an introductory thing for the audiobook that would explain or just address various things. And something I want to mention is, where's the section that I put on this? Notes on names, notes on word choices. It just various things that differ between Iliad translations. So not necessarily talking about the specific storyline of Chapman's or the content of it, the content in terms of what he does differently than others. Because he uses steel, which is common of some of the poetic translations of Iliad and other stuff, to connote any type of blade. But obviously, since it's the Bronze Age, there would be no steel, so it's more of a metaphor. I'm going to mention that, or I would like to mention that in the opening thing. Till quite deprived of life, the steel had robbed them of their strength. This said, the throats of both the lambs he cut with his royal knife. He laid them panting on the earth, till quite deprived of life, the steel had... He laid them panting on the earth, till quite deprived of life, the steel had robbed them of their strength. Then golden cups they crowned, with wine out of a cistern drawn, which, poured upon the ground, they fell upon their humble knees to all the deities, and thus prayed one of both the hosts that might do sacrifice. O Jupiter, most high, most great, and all the deathless powers, who first shall dare to violate the late sworn oaths of ours, so let the bloods and brains of them, and all... O Jupiter, most high, most great, and all the deathless powers, who first shall dare to violate the late sworn oaths of ours, so let the bloods and brains of them, and all they shall produce, flow on from the stained face of earth, as now this sacred juice, and let their wives with bastardess brand all their future race. Thus prayed they, but with wished effects their prayers Jove did not grace. When Priam said, Lords of both hosts, I can no longer stay to see my loved son. Thus prayed they, but with wished effects their prayers Jove did not grace. When Priam said, Lords of both hosts, I can no longer stay to see my loved son try his life, and so must make away. Son try his life, and so must take my way to wind-exposed Ilion. Jove yet and heaven's high states know only which of these must now pay tribute to the fates. Thus, putting in his coach the lambs, he mounts and reins his horse. Antenor to him, and to Troy they both take. Antenor to him, and to Troy both take their speedy course. Then Hector, Priam's martial son, stepped forth and met the ground with wise Ulysses, where the blows of combat must resound. Which done, into a helm they put 2 lots, to let them know. Into a helm they put 2 lots, to let them know which of the combatants should first his brass-piled javelin throw. When all the people standing by, with hands held up to heaven, prayed Jove the conquest might not be by force or fortune given, but that the man who was in the right fortune given, but that the man who was in right, the author of most wrong, might feel his justice, and no more these tedious wars prolong, but sinking to the house of death, leave them, as long before, linked fast in leagues of amity that might dissolve no more. Then Hector shook the helm that held the equal dooms of chance, looked back and drew, and Paris had of chance, looked back and drew, and Paris had first looked back and drew, and Paris first had lot to hurl his lance. The soldiers all sat down and ranked, each by his arms and horse, that then lay down and cooled their hoofs, and now the allotted course bids fair-haired Helen's husband's arm. And now the allotted course bids fair-haired Helen's husband arm, who first makes fast his greaves, with silver buckles to his legs, then on his breast receives the curates that Lycaon wore, his brother, but made fit fair for his body. Next his sword he took and fastened it all damasked underneath his arm. His shield then grave and great his shoulders wore. Underneath his arm. His shield then grave and great his shoulders wore, and on his head his glorious helm he set, topped with a plume of horse's hair that horribly did dance, and seemed to threaten as he moved. At last he takes his lance, exceeding big and full of weight, which he with ease could use. In like sort Sparta's warlike king himself with arms endues, thus armed, at either army both, they both stood bravely in, possessing both hosts with amaze, they came so chin to chin, and with such horrible aspects each other did salute. A fair large field was made for them, where wraths for hugeness mute and mutual made them mutually. And with such horrible aspects either did they came so, possessing both hosts with amaze, they came so chin to chin, and with such horrible aspects each other did salute. A fair large field was made for them, where wraths for hugeness mute and mutual made them mutually at either shake. For hugeness mute and mutual made them mutually at either shake their darts before they threw. Then Paris first with his long javelin parts. It smote Atrides orbi dart. Long javelin parts. It smote Atrides orbi targe, but ran not through the brass, for in it, arming well the shield, the head reflected was. Then did the second combatant apply him to his spear, which ere he threw he thus besought almighty Jupiter. O Jove, vouchsafe me now revenge, and that my enemy, for doing wrong so undeserved, may pay deservedly the pains he forfeited. And let these hands inflict those pains, by conquering dead, him on whom life complains, that any now or any one of all the brood of men to live hereafter may with fear from all offence abstain, for more from all such foul offence to him that was. I'm just going to check Menelaus's voice before I go further. Now also give me ear. Yeah, it's good. That any now or any one of all the brood of men to live hereafter may with fear from all offence abstain, much more from all such foul offence to him that was his host, and entertained him as the man whom he affected most. This said, he shook and threw his lance, which struck through Paris' shield. And with the strength he gave it, it made the cuirass yield, his coat of mail, his breast and all, and drove his entrails in that low region where the guts in 3 small parts begin. Yet he, in bowing of his breast, prevented sable death. This taint he followed with his sword, prevented sable death. This taint he followed with his sword, drawn from a silver sheath, which lifting high he struck his helm, full where his plume did stand, on which it piecemeal brake, and fell from his unhappy hand. At which he sighing stood, and stared upon the ample sky, and said, O Jove, there is no god given more liberal eye to those that serve thee than thyself. Why have I prayed in vain? I hoped my hand should have revenged the wrongs I still sustain on him that did them. The wrongs I still sustain on him that did them, and still dares their foul defense pursue. And now my lance hath missed his end. My sword in shivers flew, and he scapes all. With this, again he rushed upon his guest, and caught him by the horsehair plume that dangled on his chest, with thought to drag him to the Greeks, which surely he had done, and so besides the victory had wondrous glory won, because the needle-painted lace with which his helm was tied beneath his chin, and so about his dainty throat implied, had strangled him, but that in time the Cyprian seed of Jove did break the string with which was lined that which the needle wove. And was the needle wove, and was the tufts with which the needle wove, and was the tough thong of a steer, and so the victor's palm was, for so full a man-at-arms, only an empty helm. That which the needle wove, and was the tough thong of a steer. And so the victor's palm was, for so full a man-at-arms, only an empty helm. That then he swung about his head, and cast among his friends, who scrambled and took it up with shouts. Again then he intends to force the lifeblood of his foe, and ran on him amain with shaken javelin. When the queen that lovers loves again attended, and now ravished him from that encounter quite, with shaken javelin. When the queen that to force the lifeblood of his foe, and ran on him amain with shaken javelin. When the queen that lovers loves again attended, and now ravished him from that encounter quite with ease, and wondrous suddenly, for she, a goddess, might. She hid him in a cloud of gold, and never made him known, till in his chamber, fresh and sweet, she gently set him down, and went for Helen, whom she found in Sia's utmost height, to which whole swarms of city dames had climbed to see the sight. To give her errand good success, she took on her To give her errand good success, she climbed to see the sight. To give her errand good success, she took on her the shape of beldame Gria, who was brought by Helen in her rape from Lacedaemon, and in trust in all her secrets still, being old, and had of all her maids the main bent of her will, and spun for her her finest wool. Like her, love's empress came, pulled by Helen the heavenly veil, and softly said, Madame, my lord calls for you. You must needs make... Okay, let's put a note for Aphrodite or Venus. Venus. I'm trying to think in Roman god terms since this one uses the Roman gods. Pulled Helen by the heavenly veil, and softly said, Madame, my lord calls for you. You must needs make all your kind haste. Like her, love's and spun her finest wool. Like her, love's empress came, Like her, love's empress came, pulled Helen by the heavenly veil, and softly said, Madame, my lord calls for you. You must needs make all your haste. You must needs make all your kind haste home. He's in your chamber, stays and longs, sits by your bed. Pray come, 'tis richly made and sweet, but he more sweet. Richly made and sweet, but he more sweet, and looks so clear, so fresh and movingly attired, that seeing you would swear he came not from the dusty fight, but from a courtly dance. From the dusty fight, but from a courtly dance, or would to dancing. This, or would to dancing. Or would to dancing. This she made a charm for dalliance, whose virtue Helen felt, and knew by her so radiant eyes, white neck, and most enticing breasts, the deified disguise. At which, amazed, she answered her, Unhappy deity, why lovest thou still in these deceits to wrap my fantasy? Or whither yet of all the towns given to their lust beside, in Phrygia or Maeonia, comest thou to be my guide, if there of so diverse languaged men thou hast as here in Troy? Comest thou to be my guide, if there of diverse languaged men thou hast, as here in Troy, some other friend to be thy here in Troy, some other friend to be my shame, since here thy latest joy by Menelaus now subdued, by him I shall be born. Subdued, by him shall I be born, home now subdued. By him shall I be born, home to his court, and end my life in triumph. Some other friend to be my shame, since here thy latest joy by Menelaus now subdued. By him shall I be born, home to his court, and end my life in triumphs of his scorn. And to this end would thy deceits my wanton life allure? Hence, go thyself to Priam's son, and all the ways abjure of gods or godlike-minded dames, nor ever turn again thy earth-affecting feet to heaven, but for his sake sustain toils here, guard, grace him endlessly, till he requite thy grace by giving thee my place with him, or take his servant's place, if all dishonorable ways. My place with him, or take his servant's place, if all dishonorable ways your favors seek to serve, his never pleased incontinence. I better will deserve than incontinence. I better will deserve than serve his dotage now. What shame were it for me to feed this lust in him? All honored dames would hate me for the deed. He leaves a woman's love so shamed, and shows so base a mind to feel nor my shame nor his own. Griefs of a greater kind wound me than such as can. Griefs of a greater kind wound me than such can as. Griefs of a greater kind wound me than such as can admit. Wound me than such as can admit such kind delights so soon. The goddess, angry that, past shame, her mere will was not done, replied, "Incense me not, you wretch, lest, once incensed, I leave thy cursed life to as strange a hate as yet it may receive a love from me. And lest I spread through both hosts such despite for these plagues they have felt for thee, that both abjure thee quite, and setting thee in midst of both, turn all their wraths on thee, and dart thee dead, that such a death may wreak thy wrong of me. That such a death may wreak thy wrong of me." This struck the fair dame with such fear it took her speech away, and shadowed in her snowy veil she durst not but obey. And yet to shun the shame she feared, she vanquished, she feared, she vanquished, she feared, she vanished. And yet to shun the shame she feared, she vanished undescried of all the Trojan ladies there, for Venus was her guide. Arrived at home, her women both fell to their work in. Arrived at home, her guide. Arrived at home, her women both fell to their work in haste. When she that was of all her sex the most divinely graced ascended to a higher room, though much against her will, where lovely Alexander was, being led by Venus still. The laughter-loving dame discerned her moved mind by her grace, and for her mirth's sake set a stool full before Paris' face. Set a stool full before Paris' face, where she would needs have Helen sit, who, though she durst not choose but sit, yet looked away for all the goddess power could use, and used her tongue too. But sit, yet looked away for all the goddess power could use, who, though she durst not choose but sit, yet looked away for all the goddess power could use, and used her tongue too, and to chide whom Venus soothed so much, and chid too in this bitter kind. And was thy cowardice such, so conquered, to be seen alive? Oh, would to God thy life had perished by this. To God thy life had perished by his worthy hand, to whom I first was wife. Before this thou wouldst glorify thy valor and thy lance, and past my first loves boast them far. Go once more and advance thy braves against his single power. This foil might fall by chance. Poor conquered man, 'twas such a chance as I would not advise. 'Twas such a chance as I would not advise. Thy valor should provoke again. Shun him, thou most unwise, lest next thy spirit sent to hell, thy body be his prize. He answered, "Pray thee, woman, cease to chide and give me thus." Let's check Paris. "Because thy sharp reproof is out of justice given. Body be his prize." He answered, "Pray thee, woman, cease to chide and Pray thee, woman, cede. He answered, Pray thee, woman, cease to chide and grieve me thus. Disgraces will not ever last, look on their end. On us will other gods at other times let fall the victor's wreath. Let fall the victor's wreath, as on him Pallas put it now. Shall our love sink beneath the hate of fortune? In love's fire let all hates vanish. Come, love never so inflamed my heart, no, not when bringing home thy beauty's so delicious prize on Creni's blessed shore. On Creni's blessed shore I longed for and enjoyed thee first. So delicious prize on Creni's blessed shore I longed for and enjoyed thee first. I longed for and enjoyed thee first. With this he went before, she after, to the odorous bed. He went before, she after, to the odorous bed, while these to pleasure. With this he went before, she after, to the odorous bed. While these to pleasure yield, perplexed Atrides, savage-like, ran up and down the field, and every thickest troop of Troy and of their far-called aid searched for his foe, who could not be by any eye betrayed, nor out of friendship, out of doubt did they conceal. Nor out of friendship, out of doubt did they conceal his sight. All hated him, so like their deaths, and owed him conceal his sight. All hated him, so like their deaths, and owed him such despite. At last thus spake the king of men. Hear me, ye men of Troy. The king of men. Hear me, ye men of Troy, ye Dardans and the rest, whose powers you in their aids employ. Ye Dardans and the rest, whose powers you in their aids employ. The conquest on my brother's part, ye all discern, is clear. Do you then, Argive Helena, with all her treasure here, restore to us, and pay the mullet that by your vows is due. M-U-L-E-T. Nope, that's M-U-L-L-E-T. It's hard to find pronunciations of rare, archaic words. No, not L-L-E-T. Okay. It's not showing up anywhere here. Let's see here. Oh, is it M-U-L-C-T? Extract money by someone by fine or taxation. Mulct. Wow, I've never heard of that. Okay. Let's put that in the pronunciation guide then. The conquest on my brother's part, ye all discern, is clear. Do ye then Argive Helena, with all her treasures here, restore to us, and pay the mulct that by your vows is due. And pay the mulct that by your vows is due. At last thus spake the King of Men. At last thus spake the King of Men. Hear me, ye men of Troy, ye Dardans and the rest, whose powers you enerate. Hear me, ye men of Troy, ye Dardans and the rest, whose powers you in their aids employ. The conquest on my brother's part, ye all discern, is clear. Do you then Argive Helena, with all her treasures here, restore to us, and pay the mulct that by your vows is due. Yield to us an honored recompense, and all that should accrue to our posterities confirm, that when you render it, our acts may here be memorized. All that should accrue to our posterities confirm, that when you render it, our acts may here be memorized. That when you render it, our acts may here be memorized. This all be memorized. This be memorized. This all Greeks else sought fit. This all Greeks else saw fit. Be memorized. This all Greeks else thought fit. This all Greeks else saw. Be memorized. This all Greeks else thought. Memorized. This all Greeks else thought fit.